If you feel like you have a long story to tell, go for it. But we ended up talking for like...
Good thing they don't have film. We'd run out of film.
I know, honestly. That's the problem. We've proven many times over we can talk for over 4 hours.
Oh, yeah.
And still keep going. Hello and welcome to Runnah, running on Cape Cod, Massachusetts and beyond. I'm Juliana, your host, back yet again. Here I am. Woo! All my tens of fans out there. My Uncle Paul and Daniel. This goes to you. But this week we have one of my favorite people and my guest currently, Mike Falcone. Falcone. I always pronounce it wrong. Probably because my brain, once my brain learns, someone learns the pronunciation of someone's name.
Can't unprogram it.
I can't unprogram it. It's so hard. So, Mike Falcone here today with me. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here today.
Thanks. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I think everyone's really going to like you, Mike, just because you're a pretty likable dude.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, and you usually have a lot to say. And as people would have known, that from my first episode, if you watched the first episode or listened to the first episode, you ran my first ever marathon with me.
Oh, yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, impromptu.
That was my fastest marathon, actually.
Is that still your PR?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Maybe you'll have to run with Ben and I once you're all healed up and stuff.
I need to start training. I haven't run a marathon in 2 years.
Has it really been that long?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was the last. Was the Cape Cod your last one?
Yep.
Yeah. Because I think that was the first year I announced the finish line.
Yep. Because you ran the first half of it with me.
Yeah, I ran the first half. Yeah, I ran through mile 15-ish with you, I think.
Yeah.
And then I went and I turned around. Yeah, that was fun. We had a nice time. But I think what we should do first, Mike, let's talk about how you got started in running. What was your what's your origin story? Where was your first foray into running?
Well, you know my friend Matt Auger, right?
Yes, I know
Matt. I worked with Matt, and he was running marathons every year.
Yeah.
It wasn't something I thought normal people could do, so I didn't understand this person that I knew being a normal person who was running marathons.
Yeah, because at that point you were like old people. At that point you were looking at Matt and yourself and thinking that you were old people, and now in retrospect, Mike.
I was a bit younger then. That was, I think I was in my early 30s at the time.
I can identify. Even I know plenty of people now who are, because I'm 31 now, who are oh, I'm so elderly. I mean, granted, I also feel very elderly inside, but there's still many other people I know who run marathons who are older than me, which is nice to see.
Oh, yeah, you see some old guys that are fast out there still.
It is so belittling to be passed by a man who looks like he's 80 years old and is running a solid 7-minute mile in a marathon, and then finishes it and looks like they didn't run at all. And I'm you and I are over here we're having a nice time.
I want to be that guy eventually.
Yeah. I too would like to be that person. That would be a nice time. But Matt was tempting you to run marathons, correct?
Yeah, and then so I had decided I wanted to run a marathon.
Yeah.
And it was I went for my first run the week of Thanksgiving this one year.
Ever?
Yeah.
You don't have any running history before
I played
that,
sports in high school, so
a little bit removed from being over 30 years old,
yeah.
But
But no running, just to run.
Okay.
Until then, and I had went out and I ran 4 miles, and it was very, very difficult. And then 2 days
you were
later,
wow, I would love to come back and run another 22 of these.
Well, I was determined. So then a couple days later, they had the Thanksgiving race that started into Falmouth Academy. So I ran that, and I
chased the turkey.
Promptly threw up right after finishing it.
Nice. Very good, Mike.
Which happens when you run really fast, but I was doing 11 and a half minute miles, so I wasn't very fast.
Which, it's all relative,
Oh,
it's all relative to where you were. I mean, considering you had just run your very first run ever, a little bit before that.
And then the next week I'm at work, and someone I work with, they asked me, "Do you run at all?" I'm like, "Oh, I just started because I want to
I'm indeed a runner.
Run a marathon." She said, she goes, "We're trying to get a relay team to do the relay for the Hyannis Marathon."
Oh, yeah.
And I think it was 5 people. So she managed to get 5 people. And I'm like, all right, I'll be able to do that.
Yeah. Why
When
not?
is that, in January? Got plenty of time to...
I'm a professional runner now. I've run a, how long is the Chase the Turkey? Is that a 5K?
I think it was 4 miles back then.
I was going to say, I feel like I want to say, it was 5K, but then I looked at it the other day because I was thinking about running it. And I never do because the weather is always like hot shite. And it's I was like, oh, I'll go run it. And then it started to downpour. I was like, I'm not running through the like trails behind Falmouth Academy in the mud. On a holiday.
Too muddy. We used to run through those trails in high school when I played lacrosse. So
oh, okay.
Beginning of the season, for the beginning of practice, we'd have to run through the woods. I did not like running back then.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it. I mean, I don't know. For some people, that's an enjoyable introduction to running. For me, I would have been like, no, not for me. Not for me. But, okay, so you are a professional runner now at this point. You've run a total of 2 times. Plus, maybe a couple more.
And so then a week after that, the person that got me to join the relay team said someone else bagged out. So everyone decided they're all going to run the half marathon instead of the relay. She goes, so you have to run the half marathon.
And you're like, oh, yeah, that's very comparable. My, 3-mile leg that I was going to run versus a 13.1-mile race as a professional runner, as you are now, Mike.
So I said, all right, I'll do that.
Yeah. You're like,
I
why
trained
not?
for it and ran it.
And how did that go?
Did
you train for it?
Yeah, I did. It was cold and it was rainy, and actually Matt was he was running Boston that year.
Oh, did he do it as a training run?
Yeah, so he said, "You want to?" He goes, "I want to run with you since I don't want to push it too hard, and that's about the mileage I want to do today."
Yeah.
So I had the whole race to chat with Matt, and at the finish, I saw some other people I knew from around town that just finished the half. And,
nice.
Yeah, when you go to a race, you see all these people you know.
If anyone is an expert in that, Mike, you and I are the experts of showing up to a finish line or a starting line and chatting up literally everybody.
Yeah.
We're very good at that.
I go any race in the state, and I'm bound to know some people.
Yeah.
It's always fun.
I mean, as we talked about earlier off camera, I went out of the country to Tokyo and started chatting up someone that you know that I met, and now we know mutually in Japan.
I got a text with a picture of the two of them from Japan. I'm like, yeah, that's interesting.
Not even at the marathon yet. We both ran the marathon, but we were both at that 5K that was ahead of time, which was the biggest waste of time in the entire world. I'll do some episode on the Tokyo Marathon at some point, but wow, that 5K, wow, what a waste of time.
Good way to tire out your legs before the race.
It was honestly I left my Airbnb where I was staying at 8 a.m. and didn't get back till 2 p.m. to run a 5K because it took me so long to get there and back.
See, the only race I ran out of the country was I had tired legs for it because I went with a bunch of people. We went to Iceland.
Oh, that's fun.
And everyone else was running the half marathon.
Oh, you signed up for the marathon?
Yeah.
Oh, you're so smart.
There's a whole story behind that.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute then, Mike.
But the day before, 4 of us took this guided tour hiking up a glacier. So I hiked a glacier the day before the race.
I love these choices that you make, Mike. It's great. No, it's perfect.
My race kind of fell apart at 24 miles in, but I still ended up with a PR at the time.
Hey, there you go. That's great. So we run the Hyannis Half Marathon. We're running with Matt. He's pacing you. You guys are a good thing. And you didn't tell everyone. I know which race you signed up for originally, but what was your first marathon you signed up for?
It was Disney, so it was about a year after my first half marathon. And once again, I had told Matt that after I run in the half, I think if I take about a year to train, I can do a marathon.
Yeah.
And he said he had done Disney a bunch. He said, I recommend doing Disney because it's flat.
It is fit. Yeah, I haven't run it yet, but I've done the virtual run along.
Too flat. You won't like it.
No, I won't. I like a little bit more of a hillier course. I actually, when I ran Clarence DeMar this fall, I love, I fully did not anticipate.
It's mostly downhill, isn't it?
It is a lot of downhill, but it's just a lot of undulating hills. And I loved it. I had so much fun.
That was a great race. I didn't run that, but one year a woman I was dating and my buddy Sean both were signed up to run it, so I went up there and spectated it.
The elevation at the beginning is wild. It's literally just a grade of if you think the Boston Marathon, that opening 5 to 7 miles is downhill, ooh baby, you got to go run Clarence DeMar because that is down freaking hill all the way. But yeah, so it's nice and flat. And so you took do you feel like you had enough time to train with the whole year? Did you actually do your training?
What did I do? I ended up
I don't know, Mike.
I had no idea what like a good pace for a marathon or anything like that was. The night before, I took out my GPS watch to charge it. And that was like one of those things that's like this big.
Yeah, big old chonkers.
The old Garmin's that were like a square. Took it out, turned it on to make sure the battery was charged, and left it turned on overnight.
Oh my!
And back then they didn't have the battery technology we have, so.
And Garmin's, I feel like, notoriously are not the best with batteries. They drain kind of fast.
Yeah, especially the old ones. I made it about 15 miles before the battery died.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, at least it was a measured course, you know. At least you're not out there like trying to get a training run in, and you're like, I don't know how far I'm going. At least you knew you had to mark
I ran along. I made friends along the way because I chat with people in races.
As you do, Mike.
I had started out. I had sweatpants over my shorts because it starts at like some ridiculous hour in the morning before the sun comes up.
Don't you start at like 3 a.m. or something, or like 4 a.m. or something?
I think it's a little after 4, but you have to be there early because you have 20,000 people running the race.
Yeah, that's one of the things that if I ever ran Disney, I would not be excited for. Just because getting up early for like New York City and stuff, and like my wave for New York didn't go off till like 10:30 or something, and I was still up and at 'em at like 4 a.m.
So you stayed in the wrong place for New York.
I actually had a pretty good setup. It was pretty good. I was right outside of Central Park, actually.
See, when I did New York, I stayed at Hilton Garden Inn in Staten Island.
Oh,
and they have a big parking lot with another hotel across the parking lot. And because they get a bunch of runners, they get a school bus to shuttle runners to start for free. So I left the hotel at 8:30 in the morning when I ran New York.
That's nice, Mike.
So that was good.
I will say Chicago was a lot easier. Chicago, my wave started I think at 7:30, and I think I got up at 5:30.
That's not bad.
It was only like a 2.
I'm awake by 5:30 every day. So
I'm usually up by 6:30 anyway, so like that wasn't bad. And like considering that included a half an hour train ride, and like I got into my corral on time and I used the bathroom, I was like, oh, this like a 2 hour for a major marathon, only a 2 hour time between when you get up and you start. That's like nothing.
That's why I like Cape Cod. You just drive there, park, and you're ready to go.
That's how I sell it to some people too, and that's why I think that I don't think a big marathon like that should, like Disney or something, should be someone's first marathon. I think you should run something like close to home, local, where it's not like a big like kit and caboodle to get to the starting line.
I think I like the smaller ones better now.
Yeah, I like doing the bigger ones, but like I can only take them in like increments.
Yeah.
I'm finding that the smaller ones are just like a lot more digestible. Plus, you get to see like cool things.
There's less planning involved, less stress, getting to the start.
Nice. Yeah. Oh,
One year, a bunch of friends of mine were running the Marine Corps Marathon, and
that's on my bucket list.
Three of them missed the start and were late for it because there was some issue with a train or a subway or
like
something.
Like a bus or something. Yeah. That's
Which
on my
we all
bucket
know
list.
about issues with buses.
Yeah, when we ran freaking Martha's Vineyard. Oh. Jesus Christ, that race was a mess. That is one race that I will just like. It's under different management right now. What is it?
So there was no management for it.
There was. Yeah, it's under management now. What's the name of the running club that's over on the Vineyard right now? The main running club that's over there.
I don't know.
This guy Chris, who's in charge of it. Whoever the main running club, whose name is escaping me, Amity Runners. The ones who do the Martha's Vineyard 20 miler. Yeah, or 50 miler.
That's like my favorite race.
So the people who do that are taking over the marathon now.
And that race, it used to be a different race director. Mm-hmm. And then the first year I ran the Vineyard Marathon, which was a lot better organized than
it really could not have been any worse, Mike. Like that was like the bottom tier race. I think I've never run any other race like ever that has been worse organized than that race. It was
I would agree.
Horrendous.
Well, the first time I ran it, it was a little different. And at the start, I see a guy wearing a Martha's Vineyard 20-miler sweatshirt. Yeah. So I start chatting with him. I'm like, oh, it's my favorite race. And he's like, I'm the race director.
And you're like, ah.
And it turned out he had just taken over the race. He'd been the race director for 1 year.
Okay.
Because he wanted to do a fundraiser to raise money for youth hockey.
Oh, okay.
And so he went to the race director for the Vineyard 20-miler and said, you have a lot of experience doing this. I want to do it right. This is what I'm doing. He goes, you're raising money for kids? He said, yeah. He goes, why don't you take over this race just with a stipulation that you have to raise money for kids?
Yeah, why not, Totally worth it. But okay, let's get back to your first marathon, Mike. So what was the experience like of running? Besides being flat, running and getting up early, the Disney Marathon, as your first marathon? And would you recommend it as a person's first marathon?
Well, the neat thing is it's a slow marathon.
Yeah, I mean, the finishing time. I was looking at the finishing times. When I was in better shape, Mike, not speed-wise, I'm not as speedy as I used to be. I probably could have won the half marathon a couple of years.
Probably.
Like, then I am not an elite athlete in any capacity. Like, I can run kind of fast if I train hard.
I mean, in that race, you have more 16-minute per mile people than you do 9-minute per mile people.
Yeah. And, like, my PR in the half is, like, 1:35. So, like,
faster than mine.
I can't do that right now. I hold that over Daniel's head, though. I also hold Daniel's Falmouth time over his head because he doesn't really push himself super hard most of the time. I'm like, you got to beat this old lady, Daniel. You can't let the old lady keep beating you. Like, this is not okay. you got youth on your side. I do not. But you found that it was nice having being like just in a group of people that just generally speaking ran a little bit on the slower side for your first.
Yeah, well, the thing is when you sign up for it, they had you put in your expected finish time.
Yeah. And you had no idea.
I had no idea. I knew my younger brother had run a marathon a couple of years before, and he finished right around 4 hours. So I put 4 hours in.
Okay.
And the night before, I'm having dinner with a couple people from Falmouth that were down there that I had gotten introduced to just because they were going to be down there running the race. And I knew no one down there.
Yeah.
So I'm having I know both of them really well still to this day because of it. And so I'm having dinner with them, and we're talking about what starting corrals we're in. And I'm like, I'm in B. And this woman, Betsy, looks at me and goes, "You're a fast runner." I'm like, "No, I'm not." But I think I probably finished in like the top 2,000 in the race.
That's pretty good. What was do you remember like around what your finish time was?
4:08.
Okay, so you were pretty accurate then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I know when we ran our first marathon together, which was my first marathon ever, like I thought like in my head, the average time for a marathon finish was like 4 hours. Like if I finished under 4 hours, like I really didn't have a time expectancy for myself. But like I was like, oh yeah, like people who are like average are 4 hour people. Like the fast people are like way faster, and like that was the only number I even had in my head of like what an average time was. And like if you had told me like 4 hours was like fast, which in retrospect I think it is.
Yeah, it took me years of running marathons before I got under 4 hours.
Yeah, I don't know how we did that the first one because I was playing porta potty hopscotch like after I dropped you at mile 22. So like I was in and out of porta potties for like at least like 2 full miles. So I don't know. We did it, Mike. So there's no question.
That was the old hilly course.
I know. That's why I'm like, if I was in that good of a shape and I ran it on that course, like I probably could have come in at like 3:30 or something. Wow. If it wasn't like freaking Tom Landers Road and like that stupid golf course hill.
That's the worst part. It just goes up like this for 2 miles.
The only time that you and I did not talk was when we both like mutually like decided that we were in so much pain on that golf course hill around like mile 19. I remember we both went silent at that point. We were just like, we had been talking the whole time and we went silent at the golf course hill. It's bad.
But then once we got over the hill,
we were talking again. We were good. But okay, back to the Disney race. So you finished a little over 4 hours, which is awesome for your first marathon ever. Yeah. Like that's a fantastic time.
And I crossed the finish line, and they have a big medical tent there, and they have people from the medical tent standing there. One of them grabs me and goes, "You have to go in the medical tent," because I was limping because my knee was hurting.
Oh no, Mike.
So I went in there, they gave me some water, made sure I was okay and everything. Told them my knee looked pretty swollen, checked me out, and let me go. So
what happened to your knee? Like, how did you do that?
I used to have a lot of problems with my knees. They've gotten a lot better over the years because running strengthened all the muscles around them.
Yeah. So. That's good. Was it just like you have like kind of like arthritis or just like weak muscles around your knees or something?
I don't even know. I've went to lots of doctors that were never able to figure out problems with it.
Interesting.
But the first few years I ran marathons, the next day my knees would be swollen and purple. I don't get that anymore though.
Weird. Yeah. You do have some like odd circulation issues too. I mean, I do too. I remember when we were in Martha's Vineyard, your hands like started swelling up all funny.
Yeah, I think that was dehydration or electrolyte issues.
Yeah, that was bananas. That was so odd.
If I don't like hydrate and eat properly in a marathon, my hands swell up, and you look down and they're like puffy fingers.
You're like the Marshmallow Man. Yeah.
Look like Mickey Mouse.
Which would be on brand for the Disney Marathon. That would work out in your favor.
Yeah, I didn't have that problem at Disney though, I don't think.
Yeah, you probably would have noticed that unless you were just too concentrated on your knees. But it sounds like you had overall like a pretty good experience.
Yeah.
For your first marathon?
And the worst part about my watch dying was that at one point you see you're getting closer and closer to Epcot Center. And you know that that's near the finish. But what you don't know if you've never run it before is you get pretty close and it turns and runs away from it before it comes back. So I thought I was almost done when I had quite a bit to go.
That's pretty mean. The Tokyo Marathon does something like that too. I don't know if you talked to Kathy about it or not, but essentially when you get to about like 10K to go, it's not marked for that, but that's approximately where it is. You reach a point where you go this way and there's a turnaround like down this way, and the people who are coming back are finishing, and you see in front of you at that T point, it says like 2K to go in front of you. And then you keep seeing the markers going 3K to go, 4K to go, 5K to go, and you pass them and you just keep on. You are going for a very long time. And you're watching all these people who are like sprinting their way, like, because they got 5K or less to go, and they are just like finishing up hardcore. And you're just like, where is the turnaround? You just can't see it.
Out and backs are portions of races are fun if you know other people in the race because you get to see them running by you.
Yeah, I didn't know that many people in Tokyo, so I wasn't really waving to that many people. I saw a couple of people that I knew, but not that many. But they can be pretty cruel too.
The only race I ever ran was a 5K that had a whole bunch of out and backs.
5K?
Yeah.
How many out and backs can you put on a 5K?
There was a lot. About 5, I think.
On a 5K?
Yeah, it was like a run through mostly some industrial park type of place.
What 5K was this?
It was the Irish Cultural Center 5K.
Did they do it in their parking lot? And you just go in like out of every row?
But it was the running club, the Thirsty Irish Runners, picked that as their race for the month. So there was probably 40 Thirsty Irish Runners in it.
Oh.
And I'm leading like the entire race. So on all these out and backs, they're all cheering for me, yelling my name.
Okay, that's not bad then.
Yeah. Eventually, we're getting close to the finish, and I had been running with this guy for about half the race that caught up to me. And there were these 2 kids that looked like fast college kids that were behind us. And I remember looking at the guy that was running with me. I'm like, it's time to go. They're going to catch us if we don't move. He goes, I got nothing left. I'll see you at the finish. And I sprinted to the finish, made it to the finish line. They had the little tape to run through.
Woo.
And then I sat down by the bushes after the finish line. That guy that was running with me comes up, pats me on the back, goes, good job, Mikey. I'm like, how do you know my name? He goes, how could I not? Because
everyone was screaming your name the entire time. That's like when I ran the New York City Marathon, I made friends with one of the guys, Tyler, who was there from Team for Kids. And the way I knew Tyler was, he kind of fell behind me a little bit, like halfway through the race. We were like catching up and going, just kind of in the flow. I knew he was behind me the whole time because all I heard the crowd yell was, Tyler, go Tyler. They were screaming. Not a single, I think one person in the entirety of the crowd in New York City yelled my name. I think it has too many syllables. But Tyler was an easy one, so like I'd be running next. Just Tyler, they were screaming for Tyler the entire time. I think I literally got one shout out.
Just change your name to Tyler in your head that day.
Yeah, I think next time my name's gonna be just like Anna or something when I run New York, so that way people scream for me that way. I think we gave them too many syllables to work with.
I liked New York when I ran it, but I had about a month and a half beforehand got a bad cut on the back of my foot.
Ooh,
couldn't even put shoes on for a month and a half.
Oh, you went and ran it after
Yeah,
that?
so I had this special bandage made up on my foot with like...
You use like KT tape or something? And like
no, one of my sister's friends works, I don't think she's a doctor, but she works in doing surgery with him. She works for a heart surgeon. So I think she's a nurse or something like that. She gave me this liquid stuff to put on it and then a piece of like Sanoderm. Like the stuff some people put over tattoos for them to heal.
Yeah.
And then I was able to get it into my shoes, which of course my feet hurt the whole way.
Sounds
and it was cold and windy. It was that was the same day as Falmouth in the Fall road race.
Yeah, it is.
And that was the year that they canceled Falmouth in the Fall because there were like trees down on the course.
Oh, okay. So you ran it. Was that 2022 maybe?
2014.
Oh, a while back then. Okay. That was before I lived on the Cape. I moved down here in 2017. So that was before then. I don't remember that. Did not run.
Yeah.
But, okay. So we finished Disney, and we're like, okay about marathons?
Oh, yeah. So, you know, it was one of those things I was starting running just so I could run a marathon. I wasn't becoming a runner.
Yeah, and then you kind of found yourself being a runner at this point.
Yeah, and then, so Disney's in the beginning of the winter, like in January, I
Yeah,
think.
it's like, yeah, I believe it's in January.
And that year, the Cape Cod Marathon, which had always just been the marathon and the relay, they were decided they were going to expand and have the half marathon the day before.
Oh, yeah.
And so the race director, Courtney Bird,
Yep.
and Matt Auger, who
he was in charge of the half.
Yeah, he was. Had been working for the race for years, and had done lots of the goofy challenges at Disney. The two of them called me up together to give. I think they had nobody signed up for the Chatter Challenge, but they called me up to convince me that I could run the Chatter Challenge, and so that was my second marathon.
You know what? I raised my eyebrows at that, Mike, but my third marathon was the Chatter Challenge, and my second was Boston. So you know what? We're kind of on the same trajectory, to be honest.
Yeah, and that was the first half marathon course for Cape Cod, because they've changed the half course a bunch.
Yeah, it's been the same since I came down here, but I've only been involved with the race since 2018.
Well, it originally went down to the water, turned right, got on the bike path to Woods Hole, and then kind of followed the road race course back in town.
Oh, okay.
So you had a lot more hills.
Kind of like the new Cape Cod Marathon course. Almost. Yeah. So
and it was beautiful weather for the half. But then, of course, just like every other time I run Cape Cod Marathon, it was yucky weather for the marathon.
Well, that's what happened the year I ran the Chatter Challenge, too, which you ran with me for the full marathon for that day, too. We had, like, the absolute most beautiful, perfect, like, almost no wind, stunning day on Saturday. Like, one of those days where you can stand around afterwards and everyone is there just, like, mulling about because it's such a beautiful day. And then you remember the second day.
I remember the surf hitting us.
The hail coming down Surf Drive. Yeah. That was a wild time.
So an hour or two after the race, I was in Liam McGuire's and I was talking to a friend of mine who had come to town to run the race.
Yeah.
And I told her, I said, yeah, that portion of the bike path, I felt like crying. She looks at me, she goes, that's okay. I did cry.
I feel like I know I cried, but it was half of it was because I had worked so hard to get to that point. And I was just like emotional that it was over. But half of it was the fact that my eyes were getting pelted by sand and hail. And that kind of hurt.
What, about 2 miles before the finish?
Yeah, so I was at like, what would that be, like mile 37 out of my 39.3 journey.
And I was starting to hit the wall, and I had just gone a couple miles without you because you stopped in Woods Hole to use the bathroom.
Yeah, per usual.
And I'm starting to really struggle, and then I hear you coming up behind me yelling at me, saying, come on, let's go.
Come on!
And so I had to pick up the pace for the last 2 miles and run to the finish with you.
Yeah, walking is for bitches, right,
Mike? That was the year.
That was the year we got at that. And I think we should talk about the Cape Cod Marathon course, how like we kind of became friends, because that's kind of like the origin story of Juliana and Mike running marathons and races together.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
So I'd never met you before. I'd never seen you on a race or anything. But I knew who you were because about a month before, I was volunteering at a trail race, and a friend of mine, Norm, says, "Go, do you know this girl? She's always running around town with these big red headphones on.
Oh yeah,
she's a really good runner."
Yeah, that's when I had the big over the head headphones. At that
Norm
point.
used to be a really good runner. He has the record for Main Street Mile, I think.
Oh, does he?
That was the original Main Street Mile, where it actually started at the Village Green and ran to the rec center.
Yeah, I remember. I think maybe he recognized me from that too. So I think I came in first or second overall for the ladies one year. I was beat by the Gardner twins though, and they were like 9 then.
I remember when the oldest Gardner first beat me. He was about this big.
I was gonna say
passed me on a 5K in Oak Bluffs, like 20 yards from the finish line.
Yeah, no, I've gotten blasted by the Gardners a lot of times. A lot of the times when they've been like 9 or 8 years old too.
And the first time Henry beat me was the Seagull 6.
Yeah.
We were kind of going back and forth the whole race. He did not have a consistent pace back then. He'd pass me and then he'd slow down. And then when we're getting into Woods Hole, we get to the top of Church Street. And there's his dad who I think had run and already finished to cheer him along and run to the end with him. And he just took off. I'm like, all right, another Gardner that I'll never catch again.
Yeah, no. For anyone who's watching, the Gardners are a prolifically fast-running family who live here in Falmouth.
Yeah, there's 4 boys in the family that are all good runners.
Yeah, if anyone ever has watched the local news or read the local paper, you've probably seen one of the Gardners on the front of the paper at some point, or on like the Falmouth Enterprise or something like that, because they usually win their age group, or sometimes they come in like the top 20 for the road race too. Like those kids are fast. But okay, so you heard of me.
Yeah.
And I had not heard
And,
of you. I had no idea who you were, Mike, at this point. I
Yeah,
was running
nobody
with my
knows
friend
that.
Sarah, and I was nervous as all shit because, like, this was my first marathon ever.
So we're about probably 3 or 4 miles in.
It was like we were on the Falmouth. I remember first hearing your voice, and this could be inaccurate because, you know, memories of memories. I remember being on the up portion of the Falmouth Heights Hill.
That's probably about right. It was somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
And I look over and you're running next to me, and I know you're a fast runner. I'm like, I'm probably running too fast. And I start talking to you, and you weren't wearing those big red headphones. You had switched to the bone conduction headphones.
Yeah.
And so the great thing about bone conduction headphones is you can listen to your music and hear people talking.
Yeah, and you can just switch them off really easily, and then your whole ear is still open, so that way I can, like, talk to people.
Yeah, and
like
then
Mike.
Next thing you know, I'm running a faster pace than I thought I was able to run. And I'm chatting with you until we're about 20 miles in.
Yeah.
At one point in time in West Falmouth, I stopped and turned around and ran backwards to give Maggie Yates a hug because I saw her on the course.
Oh, I remember that.
But I managed to catch back up. But right around there, some spectator yelled at us that we're supposed to be running a marathon,
I remember that, not having a
conversation.
conversation. That was so funny.
We had a conversation all the way until...
Like it was around like mile 20, 21. That's when I needed to start. That's when I had to stop and use the bathroom. I was playing porta potty hopscotch for a little bit.
And then I saw you at the finish line because you were only like a minute and a half behind me.
Yeah, I was like right behind because I think my mom has a video of it or something. And you finished like within like a minute or so ahead of me. So, and that was when it used to end down on the green in front of where now all the Christmas lights are.
And of course, I knew all the people that were doing medical stuff there. And I did not look well crossing the finish line. So they wanted to give me a bunch of attention. I'm like, no, I'm fine.
It's okay.
I just ran the fastest I've ever run.
Juliana paced me a little bit faster than I was planning on it, but you know. But yeah, you become a victim to, when Juliana gets talking, she tends to actually run faster than when she's not talking because it causes me to do better breath support, honestly. Ben was recently a victim to that on Saturday. We hit his fastest 30K time of all time.
Nice.
Just running together.
You know, a lot of Europeans will only do a 30K for their longest run before a marathon.
That's crazy to me.
Well,
Like,
we pick random numbers. Like, we tend to do a 20 mile. You tend to do a lot more than 20 miles.
I try to take it up to at least 24 if I can do it. You know?
I mean, what we should be doing is 3 hours.
Yeah. I feel like you should at least be, in my mindset is that, like, just from running a bunch of marathons, and you can let me in what you think about this, Mike, that last 6 miles / 10K is spicy. And that could be a good spicy. That could be a bad spicy. That could be like I'm just bored and I want to quit spicy. I think
usually that one.
Yeah. That's why I usually time so I get my caffeine. I usually take it at like mile 17, so it kicks in by like 18, 19, and I have it till the end. Like it's just for mental engagement, honestly. But like I encourage people, if you're running your first marathon, if you hit 20 miles when you're running, at least like walk it out another 2 afterwards. Like at least get the feeling of what it is to be over the 20-mile limit. And just like feel what it's like to be like, oh yeah, I have to run another 6 miles like after this, or walk it in, you know, whatever state you're in. Because I just feel like that last 10K just hit so spicy, and the people who only ever go up to 20 miles in a training block, I feel like you just don't get the je ne sais quoi, the taste for it, and how bad it can. Because when I ran.
You might want to know not want to know how bad the last 6 miles are.
Yeah, depending on how it goes. That could make it break you mentally, too.
Of course, the pros, they kind of do a 20-mile warm-up and then run the last 6 miles fast.
Wild to me. I've never, in any of the races I've run, gotten to the 20-mile mark and be like, wow, I feel like I could really sprint out this last 6.
Yeah, you also don't run 100 miles a week.
No, I have not gotten up to that much. My body tends to break down when I get to like 70. I can walk a ton, but like the added running miles, I haven't quite done.
It's weird how everybody's body seems to have a different point where they can't do that many miles in a week. And it starts, no matter how you build it up, I think we all have a place like where our bodies are like, this is kind of where you want to go.
Yeah, 70 seems to be like my max, that like running.
I think I was always my best at 50 and under for the week.
I like being around 60. 60 is like a good amount for me. That's like a nice time. And then we walk like another like 20-ish, depending on how much Myrtle wants to walk.
I've done marathons only running 30 miles a week.
That's pretty impressive. That's pretty good.
The neat thing is, remember your first marathon? Remember walking upstairs the next day?
Oh my God, yeah.
So I used to always take the day after a marathon off because I know I'm not going to be able to walk. But once you do 5 or 6 of them, I think you have enough muscle memory that you'll be tired, but it's, stairs are fine the next day.
It's funny. So when I just ran Clarence DeMar, I had no idea that the Airbnb I rented was like this, but there was a really steep set of stairs to get up to the upper level little thing that I had rented out. And so I showed up and I looked up, I was like,
oh no.
I was like, oh no, I gotta come back down the next day. I came down, I was fine. Didn't have any issues. But that's something, 2018 was when we ran my first marathon, and we ran together. So it's been a hot minute since I've been consistently doing at least 2 marathons a year. So, but it's only been the last 3 or 4 where I've not been in pain, walking down a stairwell afterwards. Chicago, oh baby, that was a wild time.
Do you ever do the walking backwards up the stairs?
I haven't.
That was the trick when you couldn't walk up the stairs because it hurt too much. Walk backwards, it hurts less.
I'm just such a klutz that I know that I would just fall over backwards. And then especially if you're doing that on the Chicago subway stairs, you don't want to fall backwards doing that. That's not a good move.
I've never been to Chicago. I signed up for it in the
really?
So way back when I signed up for it, you signed up and then if you got in, you got a week to decide if you were entering the race or not.
Oh, now they automatically send you through. Yeah.
And so John Banner had been trying to get into Chicago for years. And so he convinced me, put your name in this year. I put my name in and I got in.
And you were like, I don't think I wanted this.
And John didn't. I'm like, and it was also, it's in October.
Yeah.
At the time, I coached junior high school soccer. So I would have had to, it's on a 3-day weekend. So you have Monday off. I would have had to fly out on Friday afternoon and fly back Monday morning. And I'm like, if I'm going to Chicago, I want to spend more time there than just the race.
Yeah, especially if you haven't been there before. Chicago's a cool city. I've been there a bunch of times now. Not just doing the marathon, but doing other things. And I have friends who live in Chicago. I was actually just there 2 months ago for a Harry Potter thing, which was a fun time. But it's a cool city. It's definitely worth spending a little bit of time in.
I want to go and eat all the food in Chicago.
Yeah, you get some deep dish pizza. It's really technically more of a pie than it is a pizza. It's like a tomato pie, essentially, with cheese on the top. But we digress, Mike. Here we are.
Now I'm thinking about food.
Yeah, you're like, now I could have food. But yeah, so we run the Cape Cod Marathon together. You and I become fast friends, more or less.
So yeah,
both in a literal and a figurative
way. The next day,
way.
You found me on Strava and Instagram.
Yep, as you do.
So then the next year coming up to Cape Cod, you started sending me messages. Are you going to run with me? And I'm like, I'm not fast enough to run with you. And then it's at the start of the race. We're getting ready to start the race. And we see each other starting to corral. And we ran the race together.
Yeah, we ran the race together again for a second year in a row. That was the year I ran the Chatter Challenge.
And it was horrible weather.
Yeah, that was the year with the hail and the really the 40-mile-an-hour winds. I remember afterwards because we finished actually before the worst of it came through, which is wild to even think about. It was even worse when the people who were finishing in the 5 and 6 hour time frame were coming through that area, which is terrifying. At
the part near with about 2 miles left when you get off the bike path and you're taking
you're fully exposed,
and the other people are getting off the other section of the bike path, taking the right towards Smith's Hole. I saw one of my sister's neighbors that was coming from the other way.
Oh no! And she was just starting that loop around.
Yeah.
Oh
so
God!
I had to yell and cheer loud for her.
Yeah.
She said it helped a lot.
You. Oh, she did. Okay. Yeah. I was gonna say it was so loud during that time because all the wind was whooshing by our ears too.
Now you've never had a bad marathon, have you?
Oh, I've had bad marathons. Okay. Oh yes.
Because lots of people get through 4 or 5 until they get that one where just nothing goes right.
Oh no. My second marathon was an absolute hellscape.
Which one was that?
Boston.
Oh.
2019 Boston. Everything in that was absolute. I saw you at mile 22, I think, or where?
25.
Was it 25?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a bad race.
That was that the year that had all the weather?
Yeah. That was the year where we started out, it was 50 degrees and kind of humid. And then around a little before Newton, the sky opened up and it was 85 and baking. And then we got a little bit further. And then right before I saw you, it started to rain. And then it cooled down to a brisk 40 with wind as we were finishing. And my body just did not know how to handle that. That much temperature change. And my shoes were a mess. My insoles were sliding out of the back of my shoes as I was running.
Are they aftermarket insoles or
they were just in a pair of New Balance shoes that I had previous models of, and they just for some reason there must have been some quality problem with them. just like one of those like random things that just happens like every 1,000 or whatever shoes. And the insoles were just sliding out the back the entire time. Like I had to like shit my pants from like mile like 12 going
you
forward.
Swear on TV?
Yeah, it's my podcast. I make the rules. I like to think that like anything, only a couple people have sworn on here. Like, and actually, I feel like I'm the one who's sworn the most. And anything that wouldn't be okay on like the 8 o'clock time slot on like a general TV station like ABC or something, then we'll bleep it out. But things like that, I'm just like, yeah, whatever. But yeah,
that year I was actually volunteering at the finish line.
Oh, okay.
I had to start at like 4 a.m.
Oh yeah, because Matt Auger roped you into more than one thing.
Yeah, he actually didn't even. He wasn't the one that had roped me into that. I had originally signed up to with the Thirsty Irish Runners to do the water stop with him, which is at 4 miles, and then someone who runs a crew of people at the finish line in the morning wanted me to volunteer for him.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, I'm already volunteering with this other group.
Yeah.
He goes, I'll make a phone call, and he had me moved to his group, and. So back then, my sister worked kind of near the finish line.
Yeah.
So she gave me her pass for the parking garage that she parked at for work, so I didn't have to pay for parking.
That's nice.
But I got there, and I remember, it's 4 a.m. There's no one on the roads. I'm walking across Stewart Street, and a cop car out of the blue with lights on comes flying by, and I'm pretty much had a flashback to 2013 because. That was the year with the bombing and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Which I had run the race, and we were trying to get to a bar that was right down there to meet some friends.
You ran in 2013?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize you
But I
ran
remember
that year.
crossing Stewart Street, like stepping in the road and having to jump back because all these SWAT team vehicles were
were
lights
making
on.
their way down the street.
So, so then at 4 a.m, when that police car was coming flying down that road when I'm going across it, it gave me a little bit of a flashback.
Yeah, having like slight PTSD in that moment, That's fun. Yeah, that race for me, like everything went wrong. Like I had. Yeah,
that's a great race to watch. I've run it 3 times, and I don't think I've
enjoyed it
like
any of the time.
No,
I don't. I've run it twice, and I did not like the first time was just like bad. Like there's just a lot of things, and I came away from it being like, there's a lot of things that I personally can improve and fix. The second time I came away from it, that's when I ran with Lindsay, and she had that like heart issue, and she like almost didn't finish. It still was horrendous. Like I was like, this is not a fun race. It's not fun.
In 2013, it was going great for most of the race. I was probably trained to do around 4 hours.
Okay.
But my sister was running it. It was her second marathon. And she really wanted to get under 4.5 hours.
Okay.
So I guess Oprah Winfrey ran a 4.5 hour marathon at once. So her big thing was she wanted to be faster than Oprah.
Be faster than Oprah. I mean, that's a goal.
Which, of course, I had to look up celebrities' race times afterwards to see who I could be faster than.
I think you and I are probably faster than a lot of people, to be honest, who are celebrities. Like, there's a lot of...
The fastest ones that were on the list when I looked it up that I think I've run faster than were George Bush and Ed Norton.
Yeah.
They both did some fast ones.
They're honestly, most of the celebrity times when you look at them, they're highly average. Like, none of these people who, like, look like they're, like, super built and, like, muscular... really are running that fast.
Chara's been doing pretty good in them.
Who?
Zdeno Chara.
Who's that?
He used to play defense for the Bruins.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
he's like 6'9", 6'10", and retired and started running marathons. And,
okay.
It was under 4 hours right from the beginning. But
well, that's like an
this year he
athlete,
did
like
Boston and then his London the next week.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he did 2 of them like a week or 2 apart.
Yeah, I haven't gotten to that level yet. I'm like, give me time, Mike. Like I like to up the ante a little bit more, and I'm probably going to run my first 30K in the spring. Oh. Sorry, like not 30 mile or whatever. Is that a 50K? A 50K.
Which one?
In New Bedford, the Wataka something.
Is it on road?
No, it's on like a light trail, like a well-established trail.
So I did a 50K in Crane with the Cape Cod Trail Race when they used to do the 50K.
Oh. Yeah. How was that? Was that fun?
It was fun. The hardest part was 5 loops. The hardest part was starting the 5th loop.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I could just stop right now.
Yeah, I think I have to do 5 loops too, but I think...
but running through the woods, it doesn't look like you're doing 5 loops because all the trees look different every time you run by them.
Yeah.
If 5 loops I don't think I could do 2 loops on a road course.
Yeah, I have a hard time when it's like a looped course. That's why I'm like, I want to run Bay State just because it is a local race and I'd like to run it and so many people run it and they love it. But like, it's 2 loops. You have to
People
run.
try to run that one for fast times because it's flat.
I know. I just like, I don't think I honestly think my fastest time would be on a hilly course.
Mine is on a hilly course.
Yeah, a really hilly course.
Yeah.
That old course was just a nightmare fuel.
I think flat courses, my legs get bored or something.
When I was training for Tokyo and when I was training for Chicago, like especially Tokyo, I was just doing a ton of out and backs on the bike path because I knew it was a lot of out and backs and I knew it was like all flat.
See, I can do my training runs on flat no problem because I love running on the bike path.
Yeah. But it's different though. Races are different. You want to like be like doing things. It's more fun if you like actually like doing things. So, but yeah, we ran the Cheddar Challenge I ran the Cheddar Challenge. You ran the marathon in 2019, which is the shirt that I'm wearing. The last year we actually did a Cheddar Challenge shirt.
Ah.
So
I've only done one of them.
Yeah, we don't do that anymore.
I did the first Cheddar Challenge.
The first one ever, and you're not really itching to do another one.
Someday I will.
Yeah. It'll be the year where I text you and I'm like, Mike, would you like to run the Cheddar Challenge with me? And you're like, oh,
I'll text back no and then start training.
And then start training, and then a month later we'll say, hey, you know what? I just signed up for it. And I'll be like, oh, great, cool.
The only other race I've done that I said I'll only do once is the Mount Washington Road Race.
Oh, okay.
And about a month beforehand, I was talking to someone else who, this gentleman actually originally lived in Pennsylvania and came to Falmouth to run the Cape Cod Marathon, loved it here, ended up moving here.
Wow.
And so I was talking to him, and he was retired from his days of running. He told me, he gave me some advice for the Mount Washington Road Race. And he said, yeah, he goes, I did that one once and was never going to do it again. Then 4 years later, I got talked into it. So I can see that happening.
That sounds like a pretty typical like runner experience where you're like, never again. And then someone you know is like, hey, would you like to pace me or run with me for like X, Y, and Z a race? And you're like,
sure.
Fine. Yeah, it doesn't take very much. Like,
have you done Mount Washington?
No, I haven't done that one yet. Yeah.
And I had run.
It's on the roads, or is it?
It's on the road.
Oh, okay.
So I had run Mount Washington probably the year before, or 2 years before, on the trails.
Yeah.
Which are a lot harder in theory and a lot longer because, I ran the Crawford Path Trail to the top, hung out for about 30 minutes and ran back down. So that was about 18 miles total. Whereas the Mount Washington Road Race, it's only 7 miles up the mountain, but it's all on the steep road and you're exposed to everything. It's all uphill.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
One of the pieces of advice I got is this is the only race where you can bank time at the beginning because it's only like this steep at the beginning, and then later in the race it's like that.
It's like
steep.
that.
Yeah.
Oh God.
And you're mostly walking because
it's more of a power hike than it is anything else. Do you use like poles or something, or you just do just kind of power hike it?
And of course, as you're going up the mountain, it's getting colder and colder.
I'd much rather start like cooler and know that as I'm going to finish warmer, because that's more the general progression of like most people's running and mine too. Like you start a little bit colder than you finish, you're sweating at the end. I'd rather not be like freezing at the end.
But at the end, they give you a medal and a fleece blanket.
As they should.
And you have to, you get rides down the mountain. So the day before, the night before, you have to arrange rides. You get a ticket. And people can't drive their cars up the mountain unless they have these tickets.
Yeah.
So if they have one ticket, they get to pay the regular fee to drive up to the top.
Yeah.
If they have 2 tickets, it's a discount. If they have 3, it's free. So anybody that goes there with a friend that's driving down the mountain will try to get 2 tickets the night before, so that it doesn't cost them anything. Gotcha. So there's this tent where you go to meet people with your tickets. And the woman who I met's like, oh yeah, my husband and my dad are driving the truck up the mountain.
Yeah.
She had done the race before. And she goes, everyone goes up there. It takes you a while to find your ride and all that. She goes, so there's these bleachers or something, like some seating there. She goes, give me your bag for the top with warm clothes. She explains exactly where she's going to have her dad put it.
Yeah.
She goes, that way, before you find anybody, before you find us, you get warm clothes on.
Oh, that's good.
That was awesome.
That's a good tip right there.
Yeah, because you have your break and everything, but you have to wait till everybody finishes the race before all these cars start going down.
Oh.
But then we get to the cars, and I don't know if it was her husband's truck or her dad's truck, but it's a big 4-door truck.
Yeah.
And we're getting in there. This woman goes, do you want a beer? I'm like, yeah. She goes up, Cool in the back truck, get some beers out, hands them out to the.
You like really
to
hit
get
the
a ride
jackpot,
down.
didn't
So
you, Mike?
I got to drink a beer on the ride down the mountain. It was great.
You met the right people then.
Yeah.
Sometimes talking to people like gets you places, you know.
Yeah. It's always good to talk to people. You're gonna meet someone.
Yeah. I'm in the same mindset too. Like when I go places, I love talking to people and just like getting to know them and just you never know what friends you're gonna make. That's how I made like anytime I go travel by myself, which is the majority of the time. Like I end up spending like maybe like 25% of my time like when I'm traveling alone. Like Tokyo was a little bit of an oddity just because everyone in Japan kind of operates as a solo traveler and like very, 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 very few people speak English.
I was wondering what it's like traveling to somewhere like Tokyo if you don't speak Japanese.
Yeah, it honestly wasn't that terrible because no one really talks to anyone else. They just all kind of keep to themselves. And like the way that the subway is set up, it's set up with like initials. It would be like JR or like JC and a circle or a square, a shape that's colored. So it's very easy. And like the subway will read it off in the English and the Japanese like variations in pronouncing it. But honestly, I didn't have any issues. I barely even used my like Google Translate thing. And I was shopping in grocery stores too.
Oh, nice.
So.
Yeah, so like, if you go to Mexico or South America, most places, everyone speaks English. You can get by without knowing a single word of Spanish.
That's my plan when I go to Germany, to be honest. Like, I have a feeling when I go to Berlin, almost everyone's just going to speak English at a baseline.
I went to Germany in high school for a little over a week. And in the cities, most people spoke English. Because in high school, you had to learn a second language. So pretty much everyone was either fluent in English or French or both.
Yeah, in Europe or Germany specifically. Yeah, we're not that good on our education here in America with other languages. I
took German in high school, learned a little bit of it, but I've actually, I think in the last little less than 2 years, I've been trying to learn Spanish with an app on my phone.
Are you doing Duolingo?
Yeah.
I actually have started, because I know where my preferences lie when it comes to like how fluent I want to be. Like when I went to Japan, I tried learning Japanese. I did not get really far because Japanese is like one of the hardest languages to learn. And then before that, I had gone to Finland and I tried to learn Finnish, which was a completely useless waste of time because everyone in Finland speaks English. It's not like it should just be their national language. No one speaks Finnish.
It's like in Iceland. No, I don't think anybody spoke Icelandic. All the signs are in Icelandic.
Yeah, that's how Finland was too. Like every single sign was in Finnish, but even just me listening into other people's like passing conversations, everyone was speaking in English. And like when I would start speaking like a little tiny bit of Finnish, or like their version of like, hey, how you doing is moi moi, which just means like hi. And I would start saying that and I would get like a weird look from someone and then they would like try to start speaking Finnish to me. And then I'd be like, no, I'm just trying to be polite. Like English is my first language. And it looked like they were having a hard, like they just were out of practice on their Finnish too because they just like never use it, which was interesting. But Japan, like everyone speaks Japanese. Like there was like most of the people I interacted with, even the people like for part of the marathon, like almost none of them spoke any English, which was very interesting.
When you're in another country, you know how you find all the Americans in the race?
You listen for the loud ass people who are so freaking loud.
Their watches beep at miles.
Yeah, they beep at miles instead.
You hear a watch beep when you cross a mile marker. Those are the Americans around you.
Those are the Americans around you. And so I knew exactly who the Americans were because they were speaking loud English when I was there. And because like I said, all the Japanese people like largely keep to themselves and are very quiet. So everyone else around would be just like kind of keeping themselves, like going about their business. All of a sudden you hear people like yelling and screaming and laughing really loud together and be like, there's some Americans over there. Or maybe Italian. Some of the Italian people were also very loud, but it was mostly the Americans who were at fault for being very loud. But that was an interesting race for sure. But yeah, so we run a couple of races together, Mike, give or take. We ran the Martha's Vineyard race.
Oh, we started running it together.
Yeah,
I got sick a few miles in.
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to finish that race either. My knees were really bothering me like the whole time. And it was just like, I ended up like taking a shit in the woods because I think they had like 3 porta potty stops or something. There was like almost.
Surprised you saw 3 of them.
I know, it was so bad.
I don't think the first half of the course, I don't think I saw a single one.
I don't think we had a single water or porta potty stop the entire first half. And we had that really fun time on the bus where the bus was late picking us up, getting to the starting line, and then we ended up starting like way after everyone else did. So we were just like on the course, We caught up to a ton of people.
It was like going out for a training run on the bike path.
It kind of was pretty much. And they have an ugly, sorry to the people at Martha's Vineyard, but the part of the bike path that we ran on, it was ugly.
So I remember running on the bike path in the 20-miler one year where it started with like dusting of snow on the ground. By the time I finished, there was this much snow. So you're like running through that on that bike path.
Yeah, that I haven't run the 20-miler, and that's pretty much the main reason of like I don't want to go over there and like run in snow.
I did it one year with shorts and a tank top. It was so warm.
That's the thing too. You never know how the weather's going to be down here. Yeah. It's wild, especially living like so close to the coastline as you do, like obviously on an island and down here. The weather is so like wild. I feel like we get like the unfiltered, like raw weather when it hits us here. It doesn't dissipate it out or anything.
Well, you know, they changed the date of the Cape Cod Marathon so they'd have better weather, and it didn't
It's worked
work.
out so it kind of worked. It's worked out better. I feel like the weather's slightly better. It's slightly warmer-ish, kind of.
It doesn't give you long enough to train, though.
No, it definitely is closer. Well, I mean, I ran Clarence Demar was like a couple of weeks before Cape Cod. It's the same weekend as Chicago. That's why I'm probably never going to run Chicago again.
Oh, because you do stuff for Cape Cod?
Yeah, because I know it's the finish line, which is, for me, is
See,
a lot more fun.
I used to be on the marathon committee, and I always said I'll never be able to run the Marine Corps because it's the same weekend. Now I can run Marine Corps. Maybe I should.
I know. That's one of the ones I definitely want to run. That could convince me. If I got Marine Corps, that might convince me to skip a year.
Yeah, that's still a lottery to get into it, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so. I haven't put my name in at all yet for that one. Just because I've been, my big trips, I'm kind of waiting until I finish all the World Marathon majors, which at this point is chasing
They're just adding more.
Yeah, chasing a never-ending trail.
Every time you get one, they're going to add one.
Literally, like I have it planned out. I had it planned out so I would do London, because my sister's wedding is the exact same day as the London Marathon this year. I was going to run it this year, because I run with Team for Kids, which is the people I run New York with and the people I'm running Berlin with. And I could have easily like gotten in on their team if I fundraised a little bit more. But Katie's freaking wedding is on that weekend. And I said, So my plan was to, and still is, to do the London Marathon, which will be my 6th star in 2026. And I was like, okay, I'll have all my stars. I'll finish it up in 2026. And then they go and add Sydney. And then they're going to add Cape Town. And then they're going to add, I think, what is it? Not Hong Kong.
So they are really adding a bunch more.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I thought they just added
No, they are. Singapore, that's the other one. But I guess the weirdest thing is that they're not adding to like the medal. You're still getting the 6-star medal. But there's like add-on things that you can add.
They don't want to upset everyone else that has the old one.
I think so, yeah. They don't. I like. I'd rather just them like expand the medal, and when I get to the 8 stars, just like or whatever 10, whatever the heck it is, by the time I actually get to that point, like just give me the big medal. Just like, give me the big old chunky thing that's like this big and has like 10 circles on it.
Like the Cape Cod Marathon medals this year were anchors.
Oh my God, those are huge.
Put them on people and watch them
fall over. Hey, it's better than those stupid T-shirts Jack designed last year.
Yes.
Those T-shirts were terrible. Jack, you know it. If you're watching this, Jack, you know it. I've come after you for them before. This is not a surprise to you.
I think the medal from the half is still in my car. It was too heavy to carry into the house.
It's a big, the ones this year, we used a different vendor this year. And they maybe used like different like materials or metals to make their medals. So
my original Cape Cod Marathon one was this big.
Oh yeah, you had like ones that like, yeah. I have one of the old ones from the year that I was born. Because Kathy Kathy had like a whole, like just stuff she was trying to get rid of, and there was old marathon medals. And I was like, oh, that's kind of fun.
I have some marathon stuff from years I didn't run it. I have a pint glass from one year.
That
was before I was a runner.
I have a Chatter Challenge mug from a year I didn't run.
I have 2 of them from the second year of the Chatter Challenge because they kept sending them to the mug printing people with mistakes on them.
Oh, yeah. And so you got the rejects.
Yeah, so I have 2 that have, it actually has the date of the Chatter Challenge, but in the middle of the logo, it has the previous year's date. So
oh, no.
I have a couple of those at my house.
I feel like the more you get involved with the marathon, the more like the higher percentage of the things that you own are branded with the Cape Cod Marathon, which I feel like is true to like any race that you work for. Like if we worked for the Boston Marathon, everything we own would probably say Boston Marathon on it. Because
I do have a closet full of running jackets that I got from Cape Cod Marathon because we used to get a running jacket every year.
Yeah. Well,
and actually back then, I think New Balance was one of the sponsors, so we were getting the jackets for free.
Yeah, we haven't had like a big like shoe sponsor for a long time now. I think because we're just like we're working out. I think we could definitely get someone going forward. I think we could. We're in a good spot where like the race itself is probably
it's gotten a lot bigger over the last few years.
Oh yeah, and like we are definitely. I will say, out of all the people on like race raves and like the race review websites, we have the highest rating and the most reviews. Thank you so much.
It's all your social media stuff.
It's all the social media. It's only me. I'm the only force behind this. No one else can take any credit. It's just Juliana.
I like the video of you at the expo. Hey, you're the girl from the videos.
The number of people who came up to me and said that weekend was wild. They're like, "Oh, you're like a celebrity." I was like, "This is extremely niche. Like, this is for 2 days only. This is a 2-day only showing, 3-ish kind of." And once I exit this weekend, no one knows who I am anymore. That's it. That's the end of it. That's
until next year.
Yeah, until next year. I got 3 days of fame, and that's kind of it. So 3 days of me like I like yelling at people the entire time, which I didn't lose my voice at all.
That's impressive.
Yeah, considering I talked for about like, because I did the 5K and the half and the full, so I was talking on the mic for about like 7 and then 4 hours, so like 11-ish hours consecutively, 2 days in a row. Never mind like talking to people the whole rest of the weekend too, like Mike, how you are, how I am. Like we don't shut up the whole time, just like talking. But yeah, I feel like half the shirts I own are Cape Cod Marathon. Most of the sweatshirts I do.
I haven't been volunteering to get in my sweatshirts.
And you got to get a sweatshirt, Mike.
I have so many hoodies.
I know. Between like the Thirsty Irish Runners, I'm sure, and like if Mike is sporting his Thirsty Irish Runners shirt. Does that have a beer pocket, bottle pocket? Is that what that is?
So it's like a koozie that's built in.
Okay,
and
what I
has
thought.
A bottle opener just in case.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. So for anyone who doesn't know, the Thirsty Irish Runners are a local running group out of New Bedford, correct? Denham. Okay. Well, you want to tell people a little bit more about them?
Yeah.
That's a cool little
We have
thing.
a lot of fun. So at the beginning of the year, they divide everyone up into teams. Mm-hmm. And they pick for every month of the year except July, because they expect you to go to the beach and have fun in July. They pick a different race for each month of the year, and that's their Grand Prix. And if you go and run the race, you get points for your team. So what they'll do is they'll take your average pace from all your races the year before, and that's your pace you have to beat. So if you run the race and you don't beat your pace, your team gets 10 points. If you do beat your pace, you get 15 points.
Oh, that's fun. I didn't know that was how that worked.
And then you can get 10, 13, and 26 bonus miles each for running a 10-mile or a half marathon and a marathon during the year.
Oh. And anyone who's run any of the races, especially on Cape Cod or like local to the South Shore Cape Cod area, you'll recognize the Thirsty Irish Runners from those really, really, really
bright green,
like blindingly bright green shirts and singlets and sweatshirts and everything.
Yeah, depending on the race, 30 to 80 people will show up if it's one of their Grand Prix races.
Yeah, I remember I think the Liam McGuire's was the first one where I saw a ton of people at it, because that used to be one of the part of the like consistently when it was like going on every year. It was their Grand Prix race for, was it March or April that used to happen in?
Whichever one of those months it was in.
Yeah.
We used to do the Seagull 6 too. And like half the people in the Seagull 6 would have a green shirt on.
Yeah, I remember that was my first race when I moved down here to the Cape. Oh my God, I had my butt handed to me hardcore at that race because
it's not an easy course.
No, it's not, and like the weather is always absolutely horrendous and horrific and terrible.
One year, a few years ago, it was snowing sideways before the start of the race. And Mike Norden, who's the race director, says to me, "Oh, it's going to be perfect weather once the race starts." He goes, "I've been looking at the timing; it's going to be great." And somehow the wind stopped and the sun came out for the start of the race.
That is a wild race. That's fun. I will say, I don't mind running that race. I feel like I'm happier announcing that race than I am running it specifically, because it's a fun race, but it is definitely it's a labor of love.
Yeah, and it's early in the year, so if you slacked off in the winter, you're out of shape. There's a lot of out of shape people.
Yeah, your butt is handed to you hardcore in that race. It's hilly. It's real hilly. For not even a full 6-mile course, it is hilly.
And they used to do the awards in the Captain Kidd, which was a bar across the street that used to be open that time of year. I don't think they're open anymore.
Yeah, it's closed that time of year.
But so most people running the race would go and hang out in there for an hour or two for the awards, and it would be packed on this random Sunday morning in March.
Yep. You get a beer glass for running it.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I have some of those still.
Yeah, I have a bunch of them.
They're easy to break.
Yeah, I have those. We have You probably have a ton of those and some Liam's glasses too. You got a bunch of Liam's glasses that we have, and Falmouth Road Race mugs. Things that like prove that you're a Cape Cod runner. You know, little artifacts of that. You've run a bunch of the races around here.
I think most of the road race mugs I've got from running it have broken over the years.
I've actually weirdly, considering like I usually break a lot of things, Mike. None of my road race mugs are broken. I'm not like a prolific mug breaker.
Well, I used to drink a lot of coffee. I don't drink coffee very much anymore, but I used to.
Same.
You know, instead of a travel mug, I would fill that road race mug up with coffee and go out and get in my truck to drive to work.
You'd just be like sloshing around.
The cup holder in my truck that I had a little cutout so the handle of the mug would fit in it.
You like living life on the edge, don't you, Mike?
Yeah, that truck had plenty of coffee spilled in it. But for some reason, I would break those mugs when I brought them to work that way.
I can only imagine why, Mike.
Now I drink coffee like once or twice a month, tops.
Yeah, I've given up largely given up caffeine, except for like when I run a marathon.
Yeah, well, like the energy gels have caffeine in them.
Well, I mean, I always forget that because I use like the noon powder for the most part, or like some kind of like powdered drink mix that doesn't have caffeine in it, and I always forget that the goos, like almost all of them, have caffeine in them, which is interesting.
Yeah, and you got to be careful. Some of them have more caffeine than others.
Yeah, the Roctanes.
Yeah, well, some
or like the coffee flavored ones.
There's at a race I worked at, I got a whole bunch of leftover goos that were made by Cliff Bar.
Oh, the Cliff Goos, yeah.
And depending on the flavor, they had 25 milligrams, 35 milligrams, like 50 or 100 milligrams of caffeine.
Yeah, I think that's something. I watched that happen in real time when someone like doesn't realize that there's caffeine in the gel, and then it hits them, and they're like, "Whoa!" And then you see them later on the course.
Yeah,
and they're like
more than
dragging.
Like 25, it's too much for me.
Yeah, I feel like that good like 30 to like 25 to like 40 zone. If you're taking multiple gels throughout the race, I feel like that's like a good zone to like keep you like in a good enough caffeine like zone where you're not gonna be like and like crash.
You get the crash from the sugar in them too. So
yeah, you don't need a double crash.
Once you start taking them, you have to make sure you don't run out during the race because you're gonna hit the wall and run out of fuel.
Yeah, you got to retain that. You got to just like make it so it's like a nice like woo experience instead of like that up down that no one likes.
I did a bunch of marathons without fueling during them. I don't know how I survived those.
Grit, just like.
But I found now if I haven't taken any of the nutrition along the course, I'll start feeling hungry. And then if I ignore it for a couple minutes, I'll start feeling like I have to throw up. And that's my body saying, you need some nutrition.
That's not good, Mike.
Yeah, so if I start feeling really nauseous in a marathon, I know it's time to eat one of those energy gels.
Something. Yeah, that's more than fair.
It usually takes about 2 or 3 minutes after eating one, I'll be like, oh, I feel way better.
Wow, the world is so much better. It's like with those Snickers commercials. You're not you when you're hungry.
I ate a Snickers bar during my first marathon.
It's not a terrible choice.
So, this is kind of a funny story.
Okay, lay it on me, Mike.
I obviously was at Disney. It's freezing cold in the morning, so I had sweatpants on that I had like cut the bottoms of the legs so they'd slide over my shoes so I could take them off quick at the start. And then I had an old jacket figuring I'd throw it away on the course because I wasn't going to wear it the whole time. And then, we're running. I'm wearing shorts and this jacket. The sun comes up. It's starting to get warmer. So I take the jacket off and tie it around my waist. And it's in one of the reason why I didn't want to get rid of it is because in one of the pockets I had a Snickers bar. It was a Snickers with almonds. And I had been eating
that's a choice, Mike. You're going to chew those almonds while you're running?
Well, I had one of those at the halfway point of both of the 20-mile runs I had done up to there.
You are a wild human.
So, then I'm like, I couldn't stand the jacket tied around my waist anymore. So I take the Snickers bar out of the pocket, chuck the jacket in the bushes, and then I realize, this is annoying. I'm carrying the Snickers bar. So I stick it in the waistband of my shorts. So then I'm running the race with the Snickers bar in the waistband of my shorts. And at some point in time, I reached down and pulled Snickers bar out of my shorts, unwrapped and started eating it. And this woman that was running next to me must to see me reach into my shorts, pull the Snickers bar, and the look on her face was priceless.
Was it melted?
No, it was cold out.
Wow, it must be really cold. I thought you were going to say you reached into your shorts, like opened the Snickers bar, and the whole thing like splashed out in your face because it had melted in the wrapper.
No, I know someone once that fell down in a race and had a goop up in his pocket.
Oh,
that was a good story.
Oh, no.
He didn't know it was a goo, and he's got this slime dripping out of the bottom of his shorts. He doesn't know where it's coming from.
Oh, boy. There are some funny stories you get out of running races. I love it so much. Those are the things that you just like, you can't make up until you're like in the scenario.
And nobody has any problem telling you their most embarrassing stories about what happened to them on runs.
Oh, no. Especially if you're telling embarrassing stories like while you're running. I feel like runners themselves, we have like no shame when it comes to telling like embarrassing stories, and we kind of take them as trophies, honestly, half the time.
Oh, definitely.
Like your worst runs are your best stories. That's just how it works out.
Yeah, you earn those stories.
Yeah, you got to earn the stories. But like once you're running with someone talking, it breaks down a whole other barrier, and then you get like the really like deep cuts on people's like crazy stories when you're like running with them telling crazy stories. Because then it just like, oh, I feel like because you're like not usually looking people directly in the eye too, and you like
I never thought of that.
And your blood is like kind of pumping, so you got some like adrenaline rushing through your system. You're like, I'm gonna tell this really crazy story to the person who's standing and running next to me now.
I don't have much of a filter anyways, but
Yeah,
20 miles into a run, any filter that's left is gone.
It's long gone. Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, I'm the same way too, Mike. Like, if you asked me, like, what my craziest running story was, I'd probably tell you. I mean, like, I won't get to it on this point, at some point on this podcast, because this is my podcast, and we'll talk about Juliana's first shit she took on a run.
Was it well running, or did you stop?
I was able to stop. I know exactly where it was. But it was like, it's one of those things where, like, I like, never even thought that, like, it never crossed my mind that at some point I might have to, like, poop during a run.
See, I've been very lucky that my insides work well when I'm running.
Yeah, mine don't.
My sister's same as you. She can't go for a run without hitting a bunch of porta potties.
Oh yeah, it's a good day. Like I think the least times I've hit like porta potties when running races is like once or twice to pee like during a race. Like Tokyo, I like stopped to pee once, but like I was definitely not fully the most hydrated I've been, just because like you go to Japan, the drinks are like teeny tiny, just so small. And I'm just used to drinking like bigger quantities of water and like other fluids. So I just like wasn't like, it wasn't in a bad zone, but like I definitely wasn't as hydrated as I normally am. So
I once had someone text me that was in a porta potty at a half marathon.
Oh no.
She said something that she ate the night before. I didn't agree. She's like, this is the third porta potty I've been in.
Yeah, I've been in that situation.
I don't know if I'm going to finish the race.
Yeah, good old porta potty hopscotch. We love to do it. It's a fun time, you know.
That's the only time I think I've ever gotten a text from someone that was in a porta potty.
Yeah, I've not texted someone when I've been in that situation.
It was kind of strange.
Yeah, that's not really my first go-to. I'm usually just like kind of like, just keep your head down, Juliana. We'll get through it, you know. You just got to keep moving. But yeah, people, runners, we have crazy stories, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
It's a fun time, though.
Hey, we have to, on a Saturday night, you don't want to think about what you're eating, but it's going to make a difference Sunday morning.
It does. I know. I always have to remind myself, too. I'm like, Juliana, you've been in this boat before. You know what things are going to screw you up. Don't do it.
So you're a vegetarian, so you don't know how bad it is to eat a steak the night before a long run.
Well, I've only been vegetarian for like 4 or 5 years now.
Okay.
So like, but I have eaten meat before long runs, and it has not gone well. But not a full-on steak.
Oh, the fat in the steak.
Yeah, not that, not to that extreme.
I tend to get sushi the night before a race because it's got all the rice and the fish is easy to digest. Yeah.
See, like if I had that, I'd just be burping fish the entire time. It would be so disgusting. It would just be like, blah, 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 just like fish burps the entire freaking time. I just know it.
If you don't know, Juliana doesn't like fish.
I don't like fish. I do not. And like, I know for a fact that like anytime I've eaten fish, it does not settle well in my stomach either. And so I would just be like, if you were running next to me, like all the whole time, you'd just be like burping. I'd just be burping fish at you. It's not a pleasant experience for me or anyone who's around me. So we don't need that. No one needs that in their life. So we say no thank you. Like me and like a bowl of cornflakes and some almond milk, that's a nice time, you know? We keep it real bland. Have a banana, it's a nice time.
Morning of races, I often eat Pop-Tarts.
Oh, you got to get with Ben. If we're going to run some like 50, so if you want to run the 50K, Mike, Ben is also going to run it with me, I think.
When is it?
It's in May.
Oh, that's plenty of time.
You could train for it.
I could.
Ben is the connoisseur of a Pop-Tart.
I found that 50K is like...
And it's on the trail,
that's kind of my limit, because I trained for a 50-miler twice, sort of.
Didn't really make it.
So Stonecat used to do a 50-miler and a trail marathon.
Okay.
And so I trained for the 50-miler, and I think it's 4 loops that are around like 12 and a half miles.
You just like, you couldn't get yourself to do the 4th loop?
Well, it starts out in the dark before the sun comes up, and you run through the woods, and there's like roots and stuff.
You know.
By the time the sun came up, I had been on the ground a half dozen times at least.
Yeah, that sounds like how my experience would go.
At the beginning of the third loop, I tripped and hit my knee when I fell on the ground, and my knee hurt. And I basically was then kind of limp jogging through that third loop.
Well, you didn't just decide that you now lived on the ground. I probably would have just decided that I now lived on the ground. I probably would have curled up in a ball and be like, I live here now.
But then I finished the third loop, and I had, I'm looking at the time, and I said, even limping, there's enough time I could walk the fourth loop and finish it.
But you were like, no, thank you.
Well, it was a month after that, I had a marathon that I was hoping to get a PR in. And this thought that goes through my mind is, I don't want to mess my knee up worse because I'm going to have this healing process. So I decided not to finish the race. It ended at 38 miles.
That's still a lot of miles, Mike.
The next day, my knee was fine, like nothing ever happened. So
isn't it weird how that happens?
I totally could have run it.
It's just so weird how that happens. Like, I've had things that happen to me in races where I'm like, this is the end. I'm going to, like, be limping for, like, 3 or 4 days afterwards. I wake up the next day, my body is like, yeah, that was fun. We're good now. Yeah.
So then the next year, I decided, all right, I got to train for that race and go back and do it again.
Yeah.
And I was training good. I was in really good shape then. And then about 2 months before the race, I was getting this bad pain, like at the base of my big toe, like in the middle of the joint.
Oh, that's odd.
And it was happening walking, but anytime I tried to run, it hurt a ton.
Ooh.
And so I wasn't really running, and I kept, like, every week or so, I'd try to go out for a run, and it would hurt too much.
Did you, like, break your toe or something?
Well, so a lot of people thought I had a stress fracture.
Yeah.
People that knew what they were talking about. And I was refused to go to the doctor because I wanted to do this race.
Yeah, you're like, my brain is set on this. I will be running this race. Thank you so much.
But then eventually I realized I haven't run in 2 months. I can't do the race. And when I decided to drop out of that race, I said it was the middle of the week, and that Sunday there was a 10K race that was one of the Thursday Irish Runner Grand Prix. I said, all right, I'll go run that 10K, and then I'll call the doctor on Monday, go see them about my foot. But I ran the 10K. It hurt every step. It was the fastest 10K I ever ran at the time.
This seems like a very, like, runner's logic. Like, this is very typical. Anyone who's out there watching who's a runner is, like...
It's perfectly logical.
Nodding along, being like, yes, I will go gauge
There's
how
a chance
I feel.
the doctor's going to tell me I can't run for a few months, so I better go out and run hard
I better go out now
first.
and run and, like, hit a PR, and I should think about the pain in my foot and if I want to run a further distance by going out and running.
It's a pretty neat race, though. It was the Boston Firefighters 10K.
Oh, okay,
They close off, I think the road's Morrissey Boulevard in Boston. And you just go down there, and then you run all along that. You know, when you get into Boston, there's like that park on the right side of the road. Possibly. You run through there. And that might still be my fastest 10K. I don't remember the times of all these things.
I have no idea what my fastest 10K is, honestly.
I know my fastest half and full marathon. But then the next day, my toe was fine. It never hurt again. So it wasn't a stress fracture.
Weird.
Yeah, my best guess is that it's like some piece of cartilage was bent over or something.
Yeah. I've had things like that happen too, where, like, I go out and I run and I come back and I'm like, oh, everything is fine now.
For months, it was hurting.
That's so weird.
And then when I
given up, like, hit it right into the exact right spot after when you were running.
Yeah, it's been fine ever since. And that was years ago.
Weird. I don't know why, but okay. I feel like we should probably wrap up.
All right.
We've been talking for a little while. Luckily, and hopefully people are still watching and listening when they watch this back. But
this doesn't go on live, does it?
No. I have to go edit it after this.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, you'll get to see it. You'll get to hear it. It goes up on the TV station and also on the podcasting platform. So if you are watching or listening, thank you for watching or listening to this on your podcast or streaming platform of choice, which is only YouTube or Falmouth Community TV. You one watcher out there.
I saw it on Spotify.
Yeah, it's on Spotify as the podcast.
Okay.
The video is only on YouTube and on Falmouth Community TV. So
that makes sense.
Yeah. It's a fun time. But do you have anything you'd like to leave the listeners and viewers with, Mike? Any, like, anecdotes about running? Any funny jokes you'd like to tell?
I'll think of my anecdotes about running by now.
Is there another, like, long-winded story you would like to tell? Because that is very much so in the theme of you and I.
We'll do that on episode 2.
Yeah. Part 2. Mike comes back a second time. And Juliana and Mike again prove to the audience that they can talk for 4 hours straight. No problems. No questions asked.
I'm good at telling a story that starts and ends nowhere.
I'm very good at that too. And just getting detoured and coming back and being like, oh yeah, and just forgetting where you were, finding it later. It's all good. Yeah. But, well, thank you for coming on the show today, Mike.
It was fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And thank you guys for watching and listening to the show. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on either YouTube or your podcasting platform of choice, or come back and watch us again on Falmouth Community TV. Again, you one watcher out there. You one person who is watching this on Community TV. We love you so much. But we'll see you next time on Runnah. Thank you for listening to this episode of Runnah. This podcast is edited, hosted, and produced by me, Juliana Coughlin. Brought to you in part by the Falmouth Running Club and the Falmouth Community TV station. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on Instagram and on TikTok at RunnahPod. And you can send us an email at runnahpod@gmail.com. And our original theme music was brought to you by the one and the only wonderful Jeffrey Hutton. And keep up the great work. I'm proud of you.